The world economy is slowing to a crawl, but this isn't just another dip in the market. It's a major structural realignment. While most people are distracted by the day-to-day noise, they're missing three massive tidal waves about to collide: unprecedented political conflict, the breakdown of global trade, and the widest wealth gap in a century. These forces are brewing the perfect storm for a major financial shock in 2025. Most people won't see it coming, but if you're watching this, you're already ahead of the curve. In this video, we're breaking down the 5 insane predictions you need to understand before it's too late. The first one will completely change how you see your money, your job, and your future. Let's be real. The era of predictable, stable growth is over. For decades, the story was that interconnected economies and free trade would make everyone better off. But that system is fracturing. We're now in a world of escalating trade tensions and policy whiplash, where a single political decision can send markets into a tailspin. The International Monetary Fund, IMF, has warned over and over that these tensions are a primary risk to the global economy. And these aren't just abstract risks. They have real consequences for your wallet, your investments, and your job. What happens in Washington or Beijing or Brussels doesn't stay there anymore. It ripples across the globe and lands right in your bank account. This isn't about fear-mongering. It's about being prepared. It's about being one of the few who understands the entire chessboard, while everyone else is just staring at the pieces.
First up, global growth is set to slow to its weakest pace since the 2008 financial crisis. So, forget any talk of a robust recovery. The World Bank has sounded the alarm, cutting its global growth forecast for 2025 to just 2.3%. To put that in perspective, that's the slowest rate of growth we've seen in over a decade, unless you count an outright global recession. And this isn't just one or two countries struggling. It's a synchronized slowdown hitting nearly 70% of the world's economies. Other major institutions are painting a similar picture. The OECD projects global growth at just 2.9%, while the IMF is forecasting a slightly more optimistic, yet still sluggish, 3.0%. The common thread here is the cause: rising trade barriers and crippling policy uncertainty. This isn't just a temporary blip. It's a structural shift. A world with this little growth means fewer opportunities, stagnant wages, and more financial stress for everyone. The era of easy growth is over, and we're just starting to see the consequences. Prediction number 2 is a big one, and it's already started. A global stock market shock triggered by aggressive tariff policies. In early 2025, markets have been hit with sharp declines and wild volatility following the announcement of sweeping U.S. tariffs. This has injected a massive dose of fear and uncertainty into the markets, leading to one of the most significant downturns in recent years. The reason is simple. Protectionist trade policies are creating tension, not just with China, but with key allies too. This has led to what J.P. Morgan describes as a stagflationary impulse, a toxic mix of slow growth and rising prices. The market's fear gauge, the VIX index, surged in response to these policy shocks, showing just how nervous investors are. This isn't just a headache for Wall Street. This level of policy-driven chaos affects anyone with a retirement account or any kind of investment. Your life savings can now swing on a single political announcement. While markets have shown they can bounce back on news of temporary deals, the underlying fragility is here to stay. Our third prediction brings this turmoil home to the American economy. The United States is facing a major slowdown, with a very real risk of recession in the second half of 2025. While a full-blown recession is onto certainty, major institutions have flagged that the risks are seriously elevated. Projections from the OECD and PwC, for instance, see U.S. growth slowing to between 1.6% and 2% for 2025. What's driving this? Immense pressure on both businesses and consumers. Economists widely agree that the current wave of tariffs acts like a massive tax hike, putting a brake on growth. One analysis from the Yale Budget Lab suggests that these tariffs could cause the unemployment rate to rise significantly by the end of 2025, leading to substantial job losses. They also estimate that these policies will directly raise consumer prices, with the average effective tariff rate hitting its highest level in decades. This isn't a theoretical exercise. It's a direct hit to the purchasing power of every American family. While the established economies are sputtering, our fourth prediction is that we're about to see a rapid shift in global economic power. The very trade tensions hurting the West could be opening the door for new economic players to step up. This isn't just about one country's rise, but a bigger realignment of global trade. China is a huge part of this story. Despite its own issues, like a struggling property sector, its economy is still forecast to grow around 4.5% to 4.7% in 2025. In a world where advanced economies are fighting to get over 2% growth, that difference is massive. China is pushing hard to boost its own domestic demand and pivot to high-tech industries, shifting from made in China to invented in China. But it's bigger than just China. We're seeing new trade blocs and supply chains forming that completely bypass the traditional Western routes. As the US and Europe put up walls, other nations are making new friends. This could create a world with multiple economic poles, where regions like Southeast Asia, and potentially parts of South America and the Middle East, gain major influence. The World Bank, however, warns that this transition is filled with uncertainty, as geopolitical conflicts could derail progress for many developing nations. The global stage is being reset, and the cast of leading players is changing. Our fifth and final prediction is that the ghost of inflation isn't going away anytime soon. That wave of tariffs, it's a direct tax on imported goods, and those costs are being passed on to you. Economists at the OECD project that inflation across G20 countries will remain elevated, moderating only to 3.8% in 2025. While businesses try to absorb some of these costs at first, they can't do it forever. That means more price hikes are coming. This creates a nightmare scenario for central banks like the Federal Reserve. They're stuck between a rock and a hard place. On one side, slowing growth and rising unemployment scream for interest rate cuts to get the economy moving. On the other, stubborn tariff-driven inflation demands higher rates to keep prices from spiraling out of control. This conflict creates a huge risk of a policy mistake that could make either a recession or inflation much worse. This financial uncertainty is dangerous. The mix of tariffs, persistent inflation, and government budget pressures could lead to serious financial stress, including bond market volatility and a sudden tightening of credit that chokes off investment and jobs. We are not in a normal economic cycle. We are in a fragile, policy-driven world where the risk of another financial shock is uncomfortably high. So, what does this all boil down to for you? Let's connect the dots. First, your cost of living is going to stay high. Persistent inflation, fueled by tariffs, means you'll keep paying more for everyday essentials. Second, your job security is not what it used to be. When companies face higher costs and a slowing economy, the risk of layoffs goes up. Third, your investments and retirement savings are in for a wild ride. The market is being driven by political headlines, not just economic fundamentals, making it a much riskier place to be. This isn't a time to panic. It's a time to be aware. Most people will be blindsided by these shifts, but by understanding these 5 predictions, you're putting yourself in a position of strength. You're arming yourself with the knowledge you need to navigate the uncertainty ahead. To recap, we're facing 5 massive shifts in 2025. A historic global growth slowdown, tariff-fueled market chaos, a U.S. economy on the edge, the rise of new economic powers, and the lingering threat of inflation. These aren't separate issues, they're all connected, and they're creating a perfect storm. But remember, in times like these, knowledge is power. The financial world is changing faster than ever, and staying informed is your best defense. If you found this breakdown valuable, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. We drop new videos every week breaking down the complex economic forces that are shaping your world. And now, I want to hear from you. Which of these 5 predictions are you most concerned about? Let me know in the comments below. Stay smart, stay prepared, and I'll see you in the next video, where we'll talk about how to build a resilient portfolio for this new economic era.